Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm ZS Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm joined today by Jonathan Rosenberg, who is, I want to get your title right, you're CTO and head of AI for Five9.
You got it.
I'm really excited about this because AI has become a big part of contact center, and it's interesting to see the evolution of Five9. In fact, for those not familiar with Five9, Five9 was really one of the pioneers, maybe the pioneer in cloud contact center.
Absolutely.
And so you've been driving a lot of this evolution away from legacy to cloud and now to AI for a while. So just a quick bio on yourself. And this isn't your only rodeo, so you've been around a while. You've been doing a lot of advanced things for a while. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I've been at Five9 for about 5 years now, as you said, as CTO and head of AI.
5 years.
5 years. Yeah, time flies. Yeah. It's been great, especially with AI. I mean, we're going to talk about that today. So I drive our technology strategy and our AI vision. Before that, I was the CTO for Cisco Collaboration, including WebEx, and I did a lot of work on their next-gen WebEx platform, Cisco Spark, what it was called at the time.
Right, Spark.
Later, just WebEx, and then before that, I was the CTO for Skype. And I'm a longtime telecom and voice over IP guy. My main claim to fame is I'm the primary author of the SIP protocol, and I wrote a lot of the industry standards for voice over IP.
Yeah, too bad you couldn't have licensed SIP and got a piece of every SIP.
I get asked this all the time. Do I have a patent? Do I get paid every time someone asks a phone call? No, I don't get one dime out of that. And actually, we won't digress too much on this. Patents and standards are like oil and water, so we worked hard to avoid patents during the standardization of SIP.
No, that's too bad. Well, you did the world a lot of good because everything's done over SIP now. So now within the industry, the CX industry in particular, there's a lot of chatter about AI. In fact, there's not a vendor that's in the broader CX umbrella, and all the way from sales and marketing, to the sales and service that you do, that doesn't talk about AI. Why has that become so important today?
Right. I think it's always been important in the contact center, and it's an area where the ambition sort of to some degree exceeded the technology a little until this last year with the arrival of generative AI. But it's always been important for the contact center because the contact center is all about delivering great customer experiences, and that means getting information and answers to customers as quickly as possible. And it's also about efficiency, and that's where AI and automation can deliver that. So it's always been important, and now this technology is absolutely revolutionizing the contact center.
Yeah, now and I'm glad you brought that up, because it seems when I look at the different use cases for AI in the contact center, there are two different use cases for it, and I'm probably simplifying it too much, but there are ones that make the agent more efficient, things like call routing, AI-enhanced call routing, AI assist for the agents. But then there's also ones that I think have a real transformative capability, things like AI-enhanced CSAT scores, things like that. And so would you agree with that those are, if you were to bucket them all, those are really the two?
Yeah, I actually would say it's largely focused on customer experience. It all distills down to delivering better customer experience. If we're going to do agent assist, why are we doing agent assist? Well, we want to shave time off the after call work and all that kind of stuff. But really what we want to do is we want to make the agent do a better job supporting the customer so that the customer has a great experience. So we talk about this idea of combining human intelligence and artificial intelligence for this great end consumer experience where you call up the contact center agent and they talk to a person. When that happens, it almost feels like they have precognition. They know the answers. They don't have to put you on hold for 10 minutes going to do something and find out the answer.
It's all the stuff we hate in contact.
Exactly. We want to fix them. I mean, on a lot of ways, I'll be honest with you, it's we work in an industry that a lot of people don't exactly love the software. And part of the reason I came to Five9 was to fix that, to deliver great consumer experiences. That's what everybody wants. Consumers, enterprises, and vendors like us, that's the ultimate outcome, I think.
So I know you talk to a lot of customers as part of your job. What are some of the things, the AI capabilities they've liked, and conversely, what are the things that maybe they haven't liked so much?
Yeah. For a long time, and it's really still true, the primary thing is self-service voice bots and chat bots. That's been the leading thing. Now I think we're starting to see growth in agent assist, especially for call summarization, and I'll come to that in a second. But it's all about those self-service voice bots and chat bots. And honestly, enterprises, they love that. They also sometimes hate it. And that depends on the outcome they get. What we've seen sometimes is customers have this great ambition that they're going to do everything through self-service, and they pick incredibly complicated use cases that still have a big emotional content, and consumers hate it, and they end up abandoning that, and it doesn't work out, right? And so we try and steer customers away from that. So it's definitely about those, and now increasingly about using agent assistance, which is really, again, superpowers of Gen AI, starting with call summarization. We've seen huge excitement and interest from customers in that one.
Yeah, agent assist I find interesting because it's, when you think about AI in the contact center, there's a lot of chatter that the agent's going to go away.
Yeah.
And I do think we'll see a net reduction in agents. If I got to be honest, right? But I do think it does make the agent much smarter. In fact, I've characterized it as makes your agent super agents.
Super agents, exactly right.
Yeah.
Superhuman.
Yeah.
That's the way to think about it. That's that human intelligence plus artificial intelligence delivers this incredible thing.
Yeah.
Now, let me challenge you a little. It's not yet obvious that we're going to see less agents. I can make a case for less. I can make a case for more, right? And
I can see that actually.
And the case for more is partly this, that we're going to get these incredible experiences, but beyond that, like what we're going to let me do it by analogy, right? Here's an interesting analogy. Back in the age-old days, if you wanted to book a plane ticket, so what did you do? You called the contact center.
Yeah.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden shows up Web 2.0. Now you don't need to call the contact center anymore. You can go to the website to book a ticket. And I don't know about you, that's almost the only way I book tickets these days.
I'm not sure there's another way to do it, is there?
You can still probably call an agent, people do, but was there a net decline in the number of agents servicing the airline industry? And the answer is no.
No, in fact, it's exploded. We have
Exactly.
more airlines and we have more flights than ever before
Right.
because more people can use it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So there's some past precedent that says maybe it's not going to work out. So we'll see. But I think there's the death of the agent is definitely overblown. Like whether it's a little down, a bit up, like it ain't going to zero. That is complete nonsense.
It is interesting too that I've often looked at the contact center agent as being the Schrodinger's cat, right,
Schrodinger's cat.
of our industry.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the agent has become simultaneously less important and more important. What I mean by that is to start the interaction, everything's done through a digital channel,
exactly.
self-service
Right.
bots.
Yeah.
But then when you want to talk to the agent, all of a sudden that agent's never been more important.
Exactly right.
Right, because they need to have. If I've gone through the process of doing self-service, talking to a bot, and I zero out and go to an agent,
they better have that
agent
context.
better have the information.
Absolutely right.
And it maddens me today they don't.
Exactly. Well, that's where I feel where the technology has existed, and we have tools for doing this today, of course. It's getting way better with generative AI, and that's why I hope we get to the point where consumers declare contact centers like great experiences, and I think that we're working towards that.
And on the bot side, now bots aren't new,
No.
right? We've had bots a long time, and I think as soon as somebody knows it's a bot, they can go hit zero to go to an agent.
A lot of the time.
Do you think we'll get to the point? But I've thought about this, and if we want to use the analogies, of past precedences, I think about the restaurant industry, right? Where I remember when OpenTable came out, the person I was working for at Yankee Group at the time, she said no one's ever going to want to book restaurants through a website. They're going to want to call the restaurant. And now, if I go to a restaurant and they don't have,
you're like, what's up with them, right?
Yeah, I'm not even going there, right? Because I'm not going to call. And then, so will we get to a point, you think, where people would, right now when they call and they get a bot, they go, do you think we'll get to the point where the bots will get so good that you'll call and you go, I got a human, I'd rather have the bot?
I think it depends on what you want to do, right? When you're doing a routine transactional task, you're going to want the bot, right? And I think generative AI will allow the scope of such tasks to increase a bit.
Like, what's my balance? Where's my...
We've been able to do that through IVR. We don't even need bots for that. But, these days, more complex booking scenarios, inquiries about stuff, I think is often still goes to a human. We'll be able to do that a little bit better. But where you're still going to talk to a human is when there's an emotional component. When your flight got canceled, right, and you're about to go to Europe on a big trip, and you're really upset, and you want super confidence they're going to fix it for you, you're going to want to talk to a human. High touch sales, a lot of people, they still want their sales calls to go to people so that they can close the deal. And so we're seeing a lot of agent assist for those kind of use cases as well.
I do know from, in fact, the conversation with one of your customers that's in the mobile payment space, when they first came to market, they didn't have any voice agents because they thought they're targeting millennials. But then what the CIO realized was that when people want to talk about money, they really want to talk to a person.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It gets back to emotion. You can't build trust with a bot. You can,
or
empathy with a bot. And some people are trying, like, we're going to make these really, Gen AI will be empathetic. It'll say, I'm so sorry about that. You won't believe it. You will know it is not a person. It's not real empathy.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about a topic here that's, it's interesting that when we talk about AI, guardrails always come up.
Yeah.
Right? And I was thinking back, and I've been an analyst a long time, and I was in corporate IT before, for any other technology where we actually had to talk about guardrails, right? And I couldn't think of one. And so when you think about guardrails and privacy and security, what should customers be thinking about? Because it's not obvious. Everybody's got their own privacy story. But I can't tell if yours is better than company A versus company B, right?
So I think this is going to be a big part of how vendors differentiate itself and themselves from each other, and we're spending a lot of time thinking about this. So we think about it as responsible AI, right? And that's, that includes things like the guardrails that everyone wants to know about. How are you keeping my data safe?
But you were responsible cloud, right? Like it's not
true. but to your point, it's something that now is really top of mind because people are both excited and a little freaked out about this generative AI, and they really want to understand what's going to happen. And generative AI introduces a new thing that we never had before, right? That to me is a big part of responsible AI, which is that these AIs like hallucinate, as we've called it. They can give inaccurate information, misleading information, they can make mistakes. And how are we going to manage that risk responsibly? So I think that a lot of what we're going to see with vendor differentiation, and what we are and I am spending a lot of time on, is building solutions that allow for actually giving customers control to manage that risk in the right way, to be responsible with how they're handling that generative AI, in addition to the protect your data and confidential information and all that kind of stuff.
I think one of the things that people miss too, and I think ChatGPT was both good and bad for the industry, right? Because it did create hallucinations, but it did open people's eyes to what's possible.
I know,
Is that for the most part, like if you look at search, right? You go to Google, you type it in, it uses the whole internet for its data. And you ask it general things: did the Red Sox win? What's the weather going to be? Things like that. And the answer to the Red Sox win is probably no over the last couple of years, but that's another story.
And we're here in Boston, of course, so we have to talk about that. Yes, exactly.
But if I want to know some legal precedents, I use search on a curated data set called LexisNexis.
Right.
If I'm looking up, things for maybe buy, sell, hold recommendations in stocks, I'm going to use Dow Jones or Bloomberg, which is a closed curated data set. If I'm trying to do analytics of my sales performance, I'm going to use search in Salesforce, which is a curated shutdown database. And so with Gen AI, first of all, talk about what the impact that have in CX, but also talk about the data being used isn't everything.
No, you don't want it to be everything. Right. Exactly.
And so so how should customers be thinking about Gen AI in CX, and then how they, the data that they use?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that is, you touched on the main question you should ask is how do I get this model, your Gen AI, to be bespoke to my business, right? That is the question. And to do it responsibly, to make sure it's not, saying things about competitor products or what. I mean, could you imagine that? And so, so this is what people are doing. So we're investing in that. There are industry technologies that have become really effective at this. You'll hear people talk about fine-tuning or RAG, which is one of the really promising techniques for this, and we're seeing really good results. And so what's going to happen is it's all about vendors like us are building technologies to allow that information to be ingested, processed, and managed, and used to deliver customer experiences in a responsible way by embedding all of this in the platform. So that's what you have to ask. How are you doing this? How are you, an enterprise has to ask, how are you taking my information, my knowledge, and basically training one of these Gen AIs to work for my business? That is the big question.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the training aspect of this, because I've talked to some businesses when they look at AI, they try it out and they go, well, it made a couple of mistakes, it's not ready. And I don't know if you agree with this, my advice is, once the threshold is better than people, which most systems are, right? It may give you some false answers, but that gets fed back into the training set, and it gets better over time, right? And so if companies are if you're waiting for perfection, that may never come.
Right.
But the starting point.
But you don't have it for human agents either. I mean, that's why we have quality management for agents. We build systems.
That's true. You wouldn't need it if they were perfect.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We build systems to allow us to observe and manage and iterate and improve. And what we'll see is an evolution of those technologies that begin to work and apply to generative AI in the same way. The other thing I would say too is it depends on the use case, right? There are some cases where like, you know what, maybe it's not a big deal. Like a customer comes and it's like a fact bot, as we call it, where, you know, the customer just wants to ask some questions. There's a knowledge base, like, you know, maybe that's not a big deal. A more, like I said, sales-oriented experience or something where they're booking a trip, you know, you really don't want this thing to mess it up. So maybe that's not one where you got to be a little bit more careful. So that's the trick, is to be responsible with this thing by managing the risk and applying it to the right use cases in the right way.
Yeah. Now, when I look across the competitive landscape, every vendor that has anything to do with CX says they have AI.
Yes. And
some are AI and some aren't. And
yes.
In fact, I won't call it the brand because it's not my style.
Yeah.
But the other day I was on, you know, use our AI chatbot.
Right.
And then it just gives you a menu, 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for this. I'm like, that's not AI. That's anything but AI.
Yeah.
And so, but they call it AI.
Right.
And so when customers are evaluating, you know, who they want to partner with in this area, what are some key questions they can ask to understand that it really is AI and not just AI window dressing?
Right. So I think the great question to ask is like, tell us about your models, where do they come from, and how are they best in class? Five9 strategy for this, which I think is really good, is we have this idea of being engine agnostic, which means we're using and customizing off-the-shelf best-in-breed models. And the rationale for that is like, this is an industry that is evolving at an incredibly fast clip, and the hyperscale players, they spend billions of dollars on these things, right? Building these companies and these engines that achieve results at a price point also that's really, really compelling. And so it's sort of our belief that we're able to be efficient and effective and quick moving by adapting to the best in breed in the technology. And honestly, that strategy for us has hugely paid off, because if we had spent like 10 years building custom prior gen models, right? Those all got basically obsoleted overnight when ChatGPT shows up. So for us, it was like, great. We were able to quickly adapt our platform and point it to the new models. We've already changed Gen AI models a few times. So that's really powerful, we think. But as a business, ask the question, where does your models come from, and how are you making sure they're best in class? That's the question to ask.
Okay, and it's important to understand, though, not all models are the same, and so your ability to move between them is important. I think some models are good at, you know, voice, some are for motion. They're all different.
Yeah, right? Different use cases.
And I've wondered about this in the industry. I know if obviously if you're a big hyperscaler, you can you're building your own models
from scratch,
right? But some of your competitors, even some smaller than you, are trying to just go it alone and build on their own. And I've wondered if that really scales long term.
I think the answer is already clearly no.
Yeah.
Right, and it's demonstrated by the amount of money and time and energy. Like just do the math. Like, okay, you know, Microsoft and Google are spending like hundreds of millions, $1 billion building these models. You're saying that you can, you know, you have 100 employees or 1,000 employees. Yeah. You're saying
with my one data scientist,
you're going to be able to beat that? Really? I think you should look at that very skeptically. Now the trick is, how do you train? Well, I'll use the word train in a generic way. How do you train that model on the unique data set that the enterprise has? That's the trick. And so again, the industry has now, with Gen AI, has 2 techniques for doing that, and it's about doing those effectively, which is RAG and fine tuning. And we're finding RAG in particular to be extremely effective and a great, easy way for customers to integrate their knowledge and data into these models and make them work without us having to build it from scratch. You get the best of both worlds.
So it's quality of model and data set.
Yes.
And so you've got sort of best of breed models, but then you've got this massive data set because you guys have been around for so long.
Yeah, and we integrate, and importantly too, we integrate not just the data, their own data, like recordings and things like that are central, but more importantly, we take the customer's like knowledge bases, processes, procedures, and all of that can be, you know, you want to integrate those into the model in order to deliver a customized experience.
Okay, great. And just a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
So if I'm a customer watching this, let's say I've bought into AI in the context and I want to move forward. There's a lot of different things AI can do.
Yes.
Right? Where should my starting point be?
Yeah. I'd say right now the easiest, no regrets, like just turn it on move, is Agent Assist call summarization. This is like a back of the envelope ROI, no brainer. And to be clear, what I'm talking about, right, is it's still a call between a human and a human. Agent Assist is helping out the agent. It takes a transcript of the call, and at the end of it, it produces a summary. The agent can review the summary, and it goes in that case in the CRM system, right? So that reduces after-call work. That makes it a no-brainer. It also helps solve a big consumer pain point, which we've all experienced, where you call the contact center, talk to an agent, they can't solve your problem. You have to call back the next day, and what do? You re-explain everything all over again. Everybody hates this.
Yes.
So, and it's because it's been too expensive and too timely for agents to put good notes in case history to solve this problem. Now the Gen AI can help us do that. So we can deliver a great customer experience, and we can save money, win-win, and it's really low risk. And we're responsible about it, last thing, by making sure that the agent reviews that summary to make sure it doesn't contain factual errors. So combining that human and artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
No brainer to deploy this.
Yeah, it's a little bit of human in the loop.
Yes, exactly right.
But
yeah.
that to me is interesting because that's sort of invisible AI.
Yeah.
It's not even, it's not like the agent has to change the way they work.
Exactly.
It's not like the customer has to change the way they interact with the company. It's just better.
That's why it's a good first step.
Yeah.
It's easy to deploy. The next step after that, of course, would be self-service voice bots and chatbots, IVA and DVAs, which again, the industry's been doing for a while. You have to pick the right use cases that are super, super amenable to this type of technology.
Yeah. I've thought for the use cases, I've thought if you put all the interactions on a 2x2 grid, right, and as an analyst, I have to put everything on a 2x2 grid.
Right, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
But if the axes were frequency of interaction and complexity, it would seem low complexity, high frequency.
Absolutely right. So the one everyone talks about is like password reset. We've been doing those even with IVR days for a while. So order status, transactional processes, more complex inquiries, I think are good examples. So, and that's where Gen AI is going to basically expand the circle of a level of complexity that can be done with high customer satisfaction. And the trick is to watch these completion rates, where how often are these self-service activities complete in the IVA, or do they end up going to an agent or abandoned before completion? You want to really keep those at a high success rate, and so you gotta manage that box. But it's gotten a lot bigger with Gen AI.
That's good, yeah. So as I transform my contact center, do you think the way we measure contact center effectiveness has to change? Because I was talking with this one mortgage broker in Amsterdam, and with their call routing, it's gotten so good their handle time went up actually, because the agents are doing more things on the first call, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering the traditional metrics we've used, do they still apply to the future contact center?
Yeah, I mean, I think some do and some don't.
Yeah.
Like you got to stay. What actually really matters is customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
That metric that has to be your North Star.
Yeah.
Right. That guides everything until how you apply this AI.
That and I think agent churn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you actually do make the agents happy, you might see that 50% churn rate.
Yeah, that's a whole other challenge too.
Yeah.
That's a big dilemma. So and then how do you translate that? By the way, that's employee satisfaction.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's funny. We think about artificial intelligence, but it's all about making sure humans are happy, both the customers that contact and the agents.
Which again shows AI is a tool.
Is a tool,
right? It's to make us our lives better.
That's right. Yeah. Right, to make things better for people.
All right. So last question. I want you to put your visionary hat on.
All right.
Right. So you've been a great visionary for the industry over the years. If we roll the clock ahead 5 to 7 years, what does that AI-infused contact center look like? Like, what's my experience as an agent and as a customer?
Yeah. So I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be a really big deal. And I think it's hard to understate the transformational nature of this Gen AI technology. This is not like the prior gen where it's just a little bit better. This is groundbreaking, and not just for the contact center.
So the cloud created incremental benefits, but this is to you is transformational.
I think it could say smartphone, cloud, Gen AI. We're in that category. Is this ahead of cloud? Is it behind? I mean, we're in the ballpark, and those were game-changing technologies for the world, right? It's like that, and so it's gonna. In the same way, every one of those had a radical change in the experiences that all users of software had. We will see Gen AI deliver a radical change too. For the consumer, I hope it's this. They get experiences that feel like superhuman on the other side, right? And
it blows you away.
Experiences that aren't just like it's almost as good as an agent. The net experience is way better than a human agent could ever deliver. And that's because the AI can access data and information and process it and analyze it and do things that a human cannot, and do it much faster. So if you can integrate that smartly, you'll get like this incredible, like I get immediate connection as a consumer to the brand. It knows me, it knows everything about me, it knows all my experiences and everything that's happened. It is able to quickly, it can often anticipate my questions, it can answer them immediately, give me the information, take actions on my behalf. See, the industry has been promising experiences like this for a really long time.
Yeah.
Not the first person to say stuff like that, but the vision was ahead of the technology to deliver it, right? I believe that this technology will finally deliver that for consumers. And what we'll see is, there'll still be human agents, but what we'll do is we'll see things like the end of call hold. I would love
The end of call hold.
to delete call hold from the universe.
What happens to hold music then?
Was it ever that good over the phone?
No,
We gotta get rid of narrowband voice codecs to make that work better. But so to end up hold, and think about why is that? When you're talking to a human, the agent puts you on hold because they're getting information they don't have at their fingertips. They're taking actions that require them to do stuff. We can use AI working with the agent to do all of that quickly, right? So that when you ask a question, instead of as a customer, instead of the agent having to look it up, it's there in front of their eyes, summarized in exactly the way that the agent needs to know it in order to convey it to you. So I think we're going to see these superhuman experiences for consumers. For agents, because of what I just described, they're going to focus a lot more on empathy, right? So the role, like the type of person who's going to be a contact center agent is going to be like a high EQ person who just likes to chit chat with people, and becoming like an expert in their like database systems and knowledge articles and all that kind of stuff like that. That's going to become the easy part of the job. The AI is going to help with that. And so I think that's good. And then for administrators, I want to talk about this too.
Oh, yeah.
What we're going to see is a huge shift to natural language as the primary way in which we define how contact centers operate. And we're already starting to see that as we apply generative AI in the contact center, where you used to have to like define how it works by clicking buttons and dragging and dropping things and all kinds of, in like pretty little flow diagrams and stuff like that, which we have a lot of those and our competitors do. We're going to see an increased use of natural language to describe what you want. If you think about it, that's how, like, if I was a business person and I wanted an IVA, like, what would I do? I'd go to my vendor and say, hey, Mr. Vendor, what I want an IVA, and it's going to self-service agents. And what it should do is it should allow them to order pizzas and check their pizza status and whatever. And then someone would translate that into like flow diagrams and API invocations and whatever. Gen AI is going to shrink that middleman, and it's going to allow you to take that natural language description of the experiences you want to deliver and just immediately execute them right inside the contact center. So I think that's another big shift we'll see in the next 5 to 7 years.
All right, from Jonathan Rosenberg, we got happier agents, happier customers, and the end of hold.
Yes, end of hold.
Yeah. So coming soon to a contact center near you.
Exactly.
All right, so Jonathan, thanks for joining
Thank
me
you.
here. Also, on behalf of Jonathan Rosenberg, who's the AI guru at Five9, I'm ZS Caravallo from ZK Research, saying thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on another ZKast.